think to run a successful business, it's the person behind the business, but it's his human characteristics that are gonna manifest the outcome of the business. Just like how you said, it's once you are humble, once you do things to genuinely help people, and you don't see it as, okay, I'm gonna get the quick buck and I'm gonna go and I don't really care about this client, like stuff like this. When you're not like that, and then you start your business and you bring those values with you into a business, that's when it will show and it will do successful. But again, within my industry, I know so many people who have started literally doing advertising for clients, and they do it for the quick buck. And I then have a meeting with, let's say, a client, and they go, oh no, we worked at the agency before and we were burnt in the past.
I'm telling you, that's so common. That is so common.
Honestly, you see it a lot.
I just paid this much for this person, and then I haven't spoken to them, or they haven't followed up. Yeah, you see it a lot. And like you mentioned, integrity, bro. Like once you give it away, and you start to give it away consistently, it's very difficult to bring that back.
100%.
Because like you met, it all goes into trust, and then people kind of question, are you real? Yeah. Is it? Can I trust you that this is going to come through?
100%.
And it all starts to go downhill. So, keeping those values all in place. I mean, it's just this is why I wanted to bring you on, because I know from what you create, quality aside, quality without depth, without content, without meaning, doesn't really mean it.
Has no substance.
Substance, and it will come and it will go.
100%. You'll just be that, again, like how we said, that one company that once came and you're gone. You know what I mean? And I feel like, especially when we first started, we were just doing content, and it was honestly very good. But I just felt like I can bring a bit more to the table. I can use an example. We worked with some influencers from Love Island, and they launched, I think so, one of the influencers launched what do you call it, like a clothing brand. And
was it recent?
Just before the pandemic, probably 3 weeks before we went to the first lockdown. So it was recent. It wasn't, I remember like we were doing it, and it was a very interesting project, because there's like 5-6 influencers that came in on that day, and they're all wearing their product. It was like Kaz Crossley and all these people. I was like, okay, like this is pretty good. I mean, it's a good opportunity. Let's go in. So our task was, for the project, is how can we promote the brand without putting any money down for advertising. And this is when influencer marketing came in, and I was like, we can utilize their following for free, right? And that will bring in sales. And I guess it was I think it was a lot easier because the actual brand was from an influencer. So
like it validates it immediately.
100%, and they'd be down to do it. So we go, okay, let's try it. And we done it, and I think once the lockdown started, so let's say 3-4 weeks later, ASOS brought the rights to have it on the marketplace. And I was just thinking, okay, like we can bring a lot more to this table. It's not just bringing content. I think we can actually essentially kind of build brands, but also scale brands. I think I think loads of people say when it comes to feeding your soul, like it can't be work related at times. I think this is one thing I see a lot, but it's your intentions behind your work. And for me, I get really satisfied knowing that I helped build a brand, or I helped.
I mean, I agree with exactly what you said, and I also disagree with that statement.
Okay.
You know what I mean? In terms of you can't feed your soul can't be fulfilled with work, because I mean, if you look at us, the two most common things that human beings do is work and sleep. So when we are consciously awake and choosing to do things, like, it's so important what you choose to do in that conscious time. So saying that you can't find and feed your soul is just kind of like, that's backwards.
100%.
Because like, if you're spending 80% of your life choosing to work, or sometimes not necessarily a choice. You've got families and kids to feed and things like that. But if you can find a way to have that base around your passions, base around values, meanings, it's just that's the feeding of the soul.
Bro, 100%. And again, I agree with everything you just said there. And I think with what a lot of people do is, when they talk about this doesn't feed my soul, sometimes it could also be the ego saying that. And again, like for me, what I do is every month, once, okay, like we've done client work, I know that feeds my soul. But again, a part of my value is helping other people. So what I do is, with the retainers that we make, I then fund myself, my own charity, in third world countries, helping poor people, and that feeds my soul. But I can't feed my soul fully if it wasn't because of my work. So how am I gonna fund the charity? I'm using an example, again, it's all about consistency and having everything in synergy. And I think once people start to understand this, they will genuinely go out and try to achieve their goals without their ego saying, no, this isn't the right way, you're chasing materialism, you're chasing this. I think that comes from scarcity, people being scared, and when they're scared, like, instantly their soul will say, or the ego will say, no, like, that's materialism, that's why you shouldn't do it anyway, that won't ever feed your soul. But I think it's once they start to realize that there's a balance, you need to have a balance in life. You're allowed to follow your dreams, become rich, have a house, take care of your family. You're allowed to do that, and at the same time you will need that balance. So what's the balance? Is having, for example, for me, it's a God first mentality, helping other people, helping people who want to get into the industry, teaching people, helping poor people. Once you have that balance, you're on this level playing field. You're not tipping one side or that side. And I think loads of people think that's not possible, and I just think that's the ego telling them that it's not possible. This is just, I guess it's different for loads of people, but I think this is one thing that I've noticed a lot. And I think essentially what my mission would be is continue what I'm doing, and then slowly start, I guess, like, right now I'm in the works of building a personal brand, because I just neglected it. I was always focusing on Vision Lab, but I didn't focus on myself. So now that I'm doing that, I know I can inspire so many people. I get people, I've uploaded videos in the past, of like me as a kid, like everything I went through, and then what I'm doing now, and I get messages by so many people saying this inspires me. So I know I can do that. I can relate to loads of people, and my main mission is to show people, and especially I think within our community, and I think you can relate to this as well, is we're not originally from the UK, right?
We're immigrants in a sense.
In a sense, we're immigrants, and I feel like we have it, I don't want to say we have it so much harder, but I think mentality wise, we're not used to, for example, the UK has always been a very rich country, but where I'm from is a poor country. So we're not used to actually going out, following your dreams, and achieving it.
Very humble. Farming,
100%.
Agriculture.
And I think because we have that, at times it's a very good thing, because it humbles you, and at the same time it could be your enemy, in a sense that you'll be too scared to chase your dream. But it's not because it's you, it's just a programming that's come through the generations. But I think when it comes to people who aren't immigrants, who are from this country, they're able to really get up and do whatever they want, or follow their dreams, and they're not programmed in the same sense as us. So I think it's very important now is to really, again, even doing this podcast is essentially to get people to see this, to know, look, there is a chance for us to do X, Y, and Z. We can do this. Inspire people. I guess you're picking out my head, I'm picking out your head, and people are listening. Do you know what I mean?
Pretty much,
And
share an experience.
100%, and they can learn from this, and they can avoid mistakes that we might have done in the past, and they can learn from what we're saying, because we've done it. We've been in certain experiences. This wasn't around 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So
you're right, it's boomed very quickly. So like, it's a very, very new thing. I mean, you touched on something really cool I would like you to elaborate on before we kind of round things. But you mentioned and talked about the recent work you did with Love Island, those guys, and you worked on doing it without a budget, essentially. $0 £0 budget. How can you, or how can we, as people, because we're seeing the rise of social influencers, and I don't think it's going anywhere, because it's a new form of being able to generate income. So how can we find a way to maintain that integrity whilst doing those things? Because sometimes it can get labelled as they're just receiving clothes, and they don't really care. They're just using their leverage to just make money. But I do see, and I've worked with some social influencers who really do have good values, passions, and we can't get mad at somebody for following what they want to do. As long as it's like, it's honest and it's pure.
100%. And I think with what you said is like how some people say, they're just random clothes. I think one mistake influencers can do is one day they're promoting one brand and the next day they might bring another brand, but it's the same industry, and that's, again, that can question their kind of morals, because they're not staying authentic with themselves. But 9 times out of 10, you genuinely, social media influencers, you would think behind the screen, like, these people can be kind of stuck up, or like we have, I know, because people have all these thoughts, they don't respect them, but since the last 2 years I respect them so much, because for them this is a full-time job.
It's very real.
Like,
it's very real. And there aren't many guarantees.
100%. And I've been around some who literally they won't even touch like an inch of sugar. They won't touch it. They make sure like their body's always in shape. But we look at it, I think, oh, that's easy. It's generally not.
No,
like,
it's not. Keep your body in shape.
It's a discipline, 100%. And I think it's never gonna go any. I think it will always be here, because at the end of the day, it's like it relates to, for example, having a personal brand. If we use an example, any influencer, let's just say, okay, Demi Rose, we use her as an example. She is an expert within her own field, but then they might be like a makeup influencer with, again, let's say 1 million, 2 million followers. She's an expert within the makeup industry, so her followers will relate to her. So when let's say, okay, I have a client that's a makeup brand, I will work with her, and then her her followers will buy because they can relate to the product. It's within the same industry, same as with Demi Rose. She can relate to her people, her own target audience. So I think they'll always be there. At the end of the day, they worked hard to build that audience. They worked hard to have people to relate to them, and we should respect that. Honestly, I think loads of people don't respect it.
But I think that's a lot of the new things as well. New things don't tend to get a lot of respect until you earn it.
Yes,
you earn it over time.
Yes.
I think we're seeing now more people are starting to identify who they are as an individual. And like you mentioned as well, being authentic in the brands that they actually promote, seeing what values that they have.
100%.
It's all one big circle when we really look at things. When we can extend and create new fields of opportunity and experiences, I feel like we should just try to embrace that.
100%.
The best way possible.
100%.
Negatives come with everything. If we always try to look for the negatives, we're always going to be.
I guess even for people like photographers, videographers, when that was a thing before, people probably looked at us like, oh, look, they just got a camera in their hand, they're gonna try, they think they're gonna become Robert De Niro, you know, like these big, you know what I mean? Like that's how they see it. But then over time, they learn to respect that. Now I think that's what's happening with this. This is this big cultural shift on the internet, on social media. Now that you're seeing loads of influencers. I think now people are starting to actually give them respect, and it's just I think it's like a never-ending cycle. After this is going to be something else, and it's going to have the negatives, and the negatives will always be there, but I think the positives will always outweigh the negatives over time, and I think we just need to be more open to accept everything that's going on. You know what I mean? And I think
facts, bro. Facts, especially on the side when you mentioned about cultural shifts. That's one thing that came into my mind straight away, is that I wanted you to touch on this earlier when I said we were going to talk on it, which is growing up in Slough. I feel very, very lucky and blessed to grow up in Slough, because not necessarily from having a lot or growing up with many resources or anything like that, just purely the people and being able to mix with so many different types of people. You know what I mean? Like at school, being with so many different cultures of people, religions, even just cultural backgrounds.
100%.
And I think that forms you as an individual as you get older. The more you're exposed to it at a young age, it does. As you get older, you learn to appreciate those values in people. So like speak on that in terms of like what your experience is like growing up in Slough and how that's kind of.
No, I agree with you a lot. Especially with, for example, when you're in school, you're growing up with people of different faiths, cultures, and you learn from them and you take that with you and you bring that into an aspect of your own life. I can use an example with, I talk a lot about the ego, for example, but that's something that's very preached about within Sikhism and Hinduism. I think it's preached about in every single religion, but they focus on it a lot. But you learn it from a young age from them, but you don't quite get it at that time, but then you actually start seeing it in your own life. And at the same time, I think one humbling thing is, because we were around people of so many different faiths and cultures, there was never a division, and you learn to accept that. And like for me, I'm a Muslim, but I respect every single religion, and I actually think we all come from each other. And there's aspects of us within every religion, right? And I can only imagine not being from here, but being from a different area, it would be very hard if you're predominantly from a single faith background. When you get out into the real world, or you're gonna be like on edge about, okay, like, you know what I mean? You're gonna wanna. That's when again, the ego will really, I think,
rear its head.
Yeah. 100%. I think it's a humbling thing, being from here, being surrounded by people from, again, different faiths, different backgrounds, different life experiences. You see everything and anything, and nothing. I think that really sets your foundations for when you get older, and I think it's a very important thing, experiencing it from a young age, because they always say like your first 7 years, for example, is formulated for your years after, and it's very hard to rewire your brain after that. So if your first, not even your first 7 years, let's say your childhood, if it's built with a strong foundation, being surrounded by good people, being taught good things and honest things, I believe the rest of your life you will be honestly, like, you will be fine, and you will learn to respect and love everybody. And again, just how we were talking, that will be reciprocated with you. You will attract like-minded people, and I guess that's a big bonus, I guess, being from here. 100%.
Well, facts, bro. I mean, before we round things off, I'd love for you to I mean, we could sit and talk all day. I mean, I'm hoping to make these more of a natural occurrence. Consistently.
100%.
We ain't gonna let it go 2 years, bro.
No, 100%. We need to.
But before I leave, though, before you leave, should I say, give us a little bit of a background of where we can find info on Visionary Lab, all of your creative projects.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
Okay, sure. So we mainly advertise Visionary Lab on Instagram, and again, so we work with predominantly e-commerce brands, scaling their products. We like to now also, we're getting into working with like brands that haven't launched yet, and being part of that journey with them to launch the brand. So again, this also relates to not just getting the quick buck, but being part of their journey and seeing it grow together. We also work with a few like offline stores, so like for example Elan, but again Elan is just such a heavy company where like their e-commerce.
I saw your Instagram the other day, and it was just like, wow, that it looks well put together.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Honestly, again, I'm so grateful working with them and developing a relationship with them. Those are the brands I've always, like, from as a kid, I've wanted to work with. Even 4 years before, not even 4 years, I'm not even gonna lie to you, 9 months before I even ever worked with Elan, I remember like I was at my low, and I left this one business. I won't name the business. I left, and I literally said to myself, I'm gonna one day work with Elan. And like, not this business isn't even in London. I'm gonna work with someone in London. I remember saying this to myself, like, there's so much passion, and at that time I wasn't even branched out into London properly. 9 months later, I was working with them, and it's been 6-7 months, and we've handled projects for every single store, all the retail products, and again, I'm so grateful. I guess it's putting that will out there, that dream, and manifesting it. I don't want to sound like those preachers, law of attraction people.
Man, I think that's so important. Like you mentioned, if we live in God first, like we live with the idea and concept that something's greater than us. 100%. You live in that way. It's natural. You're gonna carry that into your work. So
no, 100%. So I guess now, Visionary Lab, building brands, scaling products. We still do content marketing. But most of the time it's content marketing with brands that we're already doing like advertising for, or we're doing more projects with them. That way, again, like we really
retainers.
It's super important. This is one thing I can't stress enough, is having your retainers in place, please. We're in a lockdown. You need retainers in place. If you don't have any retainers, you don't have a solid foundation of solid income. And I think that's one thing I learned as well. And have solid retainers in place, and try to make your business streamlined, where it's on autopilot. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything is set up.
Things are in place, organised.
100%. Have your tax on point. Have send your invoices on time, please.
Don't get Wesley.
Honestly, 100%. Never dodge tax. And I guess just be authentic with yourself, and trust me, everything will fall into place. And just I can't stress enough having all your foundations in place. You don't want to be like have your communication in place, have your client report in place. Building relationships with people is the most important thing in business for me. Like one thing I want to say before, I was reading a book lately, and I find it super important, is when it comes to relationships, one thing like I've noticed in the past as well is we always want to talk about ourselves, but we never want to listen to the other person, and we don't care about
you.
To 100%, right? And I think it's one thing I learned as having Visionary Lab is my team. I wouldn't be where I'm today without them, but usually what people do when someone does a good job, no one really says to them, "You done something good." But when they do a bad job, you're ready to really go hammer and tongs onto them. But if you shift that, and when they do something bad, you find a good within that bad, that will instantly boost their morale. Like something will change, and their output will be 10x, 20x, 30x within your own business, and it'll be so much better. So always, every soul in this world wants to be appreciated. Every soul in this world wants to feel empowered, and I think they want to feel important. To an extent, I feel like I'm important. I'm pretty sure you feel like you're an important person. Everyone feels like they're important. So make them feel important, and you will get what you want. I know that's a bit of a mind trick, but I'm telling you, like, this is how Napoleon Hill and all these people from the past, Roosevelt, all these people, this is how they became had such high positions in their career, was because they always listened, they always appreciate the other people, and they always made everyone else feel important. Never interrupt someone when they're talking. Stay quiet, let them talk, and then talk after them. If they have a passion, before I go into a meeting and I know, okay, one of my clients is really into football, I will go in and ask them, well, what's your favorite football team? And I would genuinely stress that and talk about that for 10-15 minutes, and then go into it, and they will genuinely appreciate that. They will remember that always. And for example, if it ever comes to a point where they're going to be like, okay, can we really afford this service anymore, or should we leave this person? They will remember that time when you cared about, when they cared, that person cared about, my hobby, my passion, and they won't get rid of you. And this is something I learned. And always send gifts to your clients when you sign up. 100%. Always relate. And I think once you put them first, you don't realize, but you're putting yourself high at the same time, even though you feel like, against the ego, it's like, why should I always talk about this person? Why should I, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm important too. Trust me, make the other person feel important, and you will just rise with that, because they will respect you so much more. You're now you're on a level playing field with them. So that's one thing I find.
That's deep.
Honestly,
I'm glad you shared that with us.
I think it's important.
That will help a lot of people in terms of just rationalizing the decisions they make. Ultimately, it comes down to being comfortable with this. Like, you have to ask yourselves, and ask, are you happy with the decisions that you're making
in your life?
Just truly ask yourself, like, on a day-to-day basis, am I happy? Am I finding happiness? If I'm not finding happiness, where can I find it?
Of course.
Is it from within? Because most times it usually is.
Yes.
Sometimes, don't get me wrong, environments can dictate happiness in the environment, but there's always an answer within in terms of how you move forward.
100%.
You sharing that in terms of the personality and relating to people is so huge, bro.
Honestly, I think everything you just said is very important. Just ask yourself, and I think this can relate to asking yourself as a person, who are you? But at the same time, if you're following your dream to become, you can become anything, like a football player, you want to become a videographer, a photographer, a business owner. Ask yourself, I have all these dreams in my head, but am I genuinely working towards that? And I ask myself this all the time, and I think when my big shift happened is when I realized, I have all these dreams, I want to do the X, Y, and Z, but am I really putting in 100%? Working 14 hours a day does not mean you're putting 100%, because you're draining your body. So instantly, now you're going against yourself as a human person. So what I done is I made a promise to myself. I'm going to read one book a week. I'm going to have my systems in place. I'm going to make sure I have a good business communications with everyone, even my own team. Have all of those things in place, but I'm just an example of what I realized what I was lacking. Having confidence. Once you realize all these things, you got to be real with yourself. That's the only way that's going to take you to where you really want to get to. So just what you said there was very important. Is ask yourself, am I being real with myself? You know, I think we all have the biggest dreams in the world, but do we genuinely create a plan for it, and do we genuinely go towards that plan? I'm gonna ask you one question. So, if you were to go to Scotland today, you get in your car, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna get there? Are you just gonna drive there, or what are you gonna do?
The journey itself.
The journey itself of getting there, like, you know, you're gonna go from Slough to Scotland, but how are you gonna get there? You're gonna use Google Maps. You're gonna get directions towards that final destination. So this is you. This is your dream. How are you gonna get there? You need to make a roadmap towards your dreams. See it in your day-to-day life to gain from point A to point B, and take that with you to your actual dreams. It all relates. It's the same concept. But at the end of the day, to reach a dream, you need a roadmap. You're not just going to get there. You're not going to wake up the next day and, you know, you're a millionaire, or, you know, for example, you're the most successful person in the world. You have to work and build small goals to get to your biggest goal. So I think it's very important.
Bro, I mean, you've left so many nuggets and gems. I think that
Thank you,
it's
bro.
been fantastic. Honestly. Like I said before, it's now, I think we've reached a time where we've realised as a people, like, that cultural shift, that mentality shift. It's got to a point where we can now find ways to find similarities within each other. You know, and then that will affect what work we do, the kind of quality of the work we do, and, you know, the consistency. So
100%.
Discipline, consistency, values, meaning, all of these things.
Most important thing.
Big. I'm so glad you brought those up, man. But
Oh, no worries, brother.
We got to get you back on again soon, man. Seriously. I mean,
Honestly.
I say it all the time, but no, I'm being genuine.
Yeah.
Building consistency with each other in relationships and connections and things that we build.
100%. God willing, I would love to come back, and again, I love it, bro. I love everything you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Honestly, it's a pleasure sitting down here today talking to you after 2 years.
Yeah, man.
But
timing is everything. But with the right time,
anything can happen, bro. So it's a pleasure, bro. So thank you for having me. Honestly, wishing you all the best, bro. Honestly,
absolutely, bro. We're getting back on again one time soon.
Inshallah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Hash.
Thank you, bro.
See you on the next episode.
Thank you, brother. It's good, bro.